Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm your host, Randy Dickinson, and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hello, I'm DJ Ross. I am in Mountain View, California.
Each week here on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. On this show, we're talking about Metroid Fusion, Metroid Dread, and Metroid Battlefield 2042.
Oh, that sounds like a good one. I want to try that one.
No, wait, that might be a typo.
The first Battlefield game with 128 simultaneous Metroids on the field.
Because everybody loved that co-op Metroid game.
Yeah. Did you play that one? What were you talking about? Federation Force?
I think that's what that was called, yeah. I think I played it briefly, yeah.
I don't understand why there's so much hate for that game. I mean, I do, because Nintendo fans are the worst. But yeah. I was like, that's just Rocket League, right? With little Metroid-looking guys in it. Everybody loves Rocket League.
Yeah. You know, I think if there was like a Metroid game every year and a half, every 2 years, like a Federation Force would, you know, maybe not register so much anger amongst the community, but, you know, if it'd been 17 years since the last Metroid game and they put out this thing that nobody wants and nobody asked for, maybe you're a little angry.
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
Yeah.
I was just like, I wish people had given that game more of a chance because I feel like it could have been good. I don't actually know. I can't speak to the actual quality of the game, but I was keeping an open mind about that thing.
Yeah, I remember it being fine. I don't remember I had a lot of issues with it. It was similar to the the Triforce Heroes. They did the Zelda kind of co-op adventure thing, and that was fine as well. I remember playing quite a bit of that, in fact. Yeah. So I think just expectations versus reality get in people's brains sometimes. It kind of screws us all up. But, you know, if you go into this thinking, hey, this is going to be a fun co-op thing that just sort of grazes the things that I like about sort of Metroid or The Legend of Zelda, then maybe you can solicit some fun from that thing.
Yeah. Rather than going into it just thinking, oh, this is not Metroid Prime 4 or whatever was highest on their wish list as their, like, skull bursts into flames.
Right. Dear Nintendo, perhaps you misunderstood when we said we would take any Metroid game.
Right. Oh, poor Federation Force.
Unappreciated in its time. That's really what we should have played this week. Not Fusion, not Dread. Just you and I. Yeah. Like, hey guys, it's a Metroid show. We're going to talk about Federation Force for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yep. I would love to see the metrics on that episode. That'd be interesting.
I would love to see a new Metroid game with that sort of like character design. Because weren't all the characters that kind of like cute little stubby spacesuit men? Yeah,
a little sort of chibi kind of. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Like, why don't we have that take on Samus? Why don't we have like Wind Waker Samus? Not Wind Waker, but, you know, like a cute Samus. That would be terrific.
Yeah.
Maybe that's Federation Force. Maybe I should have played Federation Force.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting sort of parallel, too. Again, you go back to Zelda, and Zelda, there's various sort of iterations and styles, right? That those games kind of exist in kind of eras. You know, Toon Link and stuff like that. So, I think Metroid has not had enough games with enough frequency to be able to sort of experiment in that way. Plus, there's a through line through the Metroid games. There's some degree of continuity from from one to the next that doesn't exist in the Zelda games for the most part. So maybe that's maybe has sort of led the developers to thinking they must maintain some degree of kind of visual consistency as well.
That's true. That's probably that's a very good point. It would be very strange if there was just like a cartoony Metroid game and the next one she was just like 6 feet tall and normal human proportions again.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Like, what happened with that one?
Yeah. Well, I would love to see sort of a Metroid take on like a Crypt of the Necrodancer kind of thing that they did for Zelda. What was that called? Hyrule?
Zelda of the Necrodancer.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know if that's accurate, but I'll agree with you.
Metroid. Or are you saying you want a Metroid rhythm game or just some sort of non-Metroid like spin-off?
Do something else with Metroid.
Do something else with Metroid. Somebody, please.
I don't know if there's enough kind of musical associations that people have with Metroid games to be able to pull an entire rhythm game out of that, but I don't know.
It would just be 20 remixes of the Brinstar song. That's all you need.
But I mean, the cool thing about what was that game called? Seriously, DJ, do you remember what it was called?
It was called, I don't remember. It was something, Cadence of Hyrule.
Cadence of Hyrule. That game was kind of fun because they gave the Zelda license and music to this indie developer and said, do your thing. I don't know. I think it'd be really neat to sort of get another perspective on Metroid. Again, not enough Metroid games to to sort of water down the pool at this point, but I don't know. I just would love to see somebody else do something kind of unique and other with the Metroid brand.
Okay, here we go. Yeah. How about this? Metroid 2D platformer roguelike by the Spelunky developers.
No, that'd be terrible.
You get dropped off on the surface of... Hold on.
Wait, you're not done. I'm sorry.
Dropped off on the surface of the planet, and you have to make your way down to the Mother Brain, and along the way you just pick up your, well, hopefully you find all the equipment you've been missing. You get your power bombs and the ice beam and all that stuff. It would be like a little compressed Metroid game.
Yeah. That would work. I can't see why it wouldn't.
I guess Metroid is already kind of a 2D platformer, so maybe just change it to an overhead, like top-down thing. But yeah.
Go full kart racer. That's it. That's my solution to everything. Kart racer.
Yeah. There are plenty of kart racers out there, though. True. But I think, this way we could have the cute little stubby Samus. We could get just an endless Metroid experience. People would just keep going back to this game and playing it over and over again. Tide them over until Prime 4 comes out in 2050.
Isn't there something, and I've not played a lot of Spelunky, I've not played any Spelunky 2, just the first one, that those levels are kind of randomly generated. You generally don't know where you're going to start or what you're kind of going to get next, right?
Yeah, and that's like the whole point.
Yeah, because it's new every time you play it.
Yeah.
That would be cool. Yeah, I think that would work with Metroid. I don't love Spelunky, but I could see that being sort of a successful skin over the Metroid brand that would sort of bring some newness to it.
Yeah. Speedrunners already have those like Metroid and Zelda randomizer mods where they like items are in the wrong places, so you never know what you're gonna get.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
So I feel like that's just the next step. Just make an entire game based on one of those.
Right. Nintendo just turns it into a battle royale game, Metroid 99.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let me just Samus in 98 Metroids. That was like the entire premise of Metroid 2, wasn't it? I don't know. They already did that one.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking they did what was the Mario thing? Mario 99 or whatever, where they had just sort of randomly remixed portions of classic Mario games that you kind of played through against 98 other people.
Yeah, but those were like actual Mario stages, right? Those weren't. There wasn't a huge random element to that.
I don't know. Maybe I didn't play it enough to have an accurate memory of it, but.
How about Metroid Maker? They could do, make your own planet, whatever.
Yeah.
Zeebies.
I'm on it. Let's do it.
Just stuff a bunch of side rooms full of Metroids, so when you wander in there, you have a panic attack.
So yeah, we're going to dig into some other Metroid things this week. DJ also played the beta for Battlefield 2042. We will get to that. Before we dig into any of that other fun stuff, though, we do want to mention that Extra Life is coming. Actually, it's not that far away, less than a month, actually, from this point. Game day is going to be Saturday, November 6th. For those who don't know, this is an all-day gaming marathon. Gamers all over the world generally try to participate on the same day to raise a ton of money for children's hospitals in our communities. I play for one here in central Pennsylvania. DJ plays for one near his place in California. So all the money kind of stays in our areas, which is super cool. We would love for you to join us, to watch us stream, to join our team if you're going to play games all day to raise money for the children's hospitals in your area as well, and you would like to link up with Team VGH. Definitely look for us in the little drop-down as you're signing up on the Extra Life site, and just join our team. We'd be happy to have you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if it's your first time, maybe, and you want more information about what's going on, you can just head on over to VGHangover.com/extralife. It will have our team link on there, so you can join up there. It's very easy.
Perfect.
And if you're just interested in watching and supporting the team, you can get kind of a rough schedule of what we'll be playing throughout the day. And this will definitely, I don't think there's much on there at the moment, but we will definitely be fleshing that out more as game day approaches with a pretty defined schedule of everything. Because usually there's some pretty cool stuff that we get into.
Definitely. And we have some more shows, obviously, between now and game day, so we'll be hyping this a little further in the future and talking about the games that we want to play. DJ and I are going to co-op some stuff. We already got a little kind of rough mental outline of what we want to do for the day, so definitely tune in on Saturday, November 6th to cheer us on and help support this awesome charity.
Yeah.
Certainly more to come on that.
Even if you can't donate or for whatever reason, it's super cool whenever we had people just join the stream and like chat with us and, like you said, cheer us on. It's usually just a really fun weekend. So hope you can be a part of it this year.
Definitely. It's a very long day, so it helps to have sort of, positive, well-slept people check in and kind of keep us motivated as well. That's good too.
Yeah.
Excellent. So let's dig into some of these games, man. Did you get to play Fusion at all? You played Fusion in the past, right?
I played Fusion, previously.
Yeah. So I've never played.
I got into a decent chunk of it this time around, though. I didn't complete it. Despite it being very short, I did not manage to get to the end, but I thought that's fine.
Yeah. That's I wanted to play Fusion because I've never played it, and because it is the direct predecessor to Dread. In fact, when Fusion starts, the screen says Metroid 4 on it, which, if I'm sort of remember what I've heard correctly, Metroid Dread is Metroid 5 technically.
Right.
Yeah. But never played that one for some reason. It was a GBA game, came out in the early 2000s. Missed it somehow, so I wanted to kind of catch up on that. Yeah, How Long to Beat said it was 5 hours long, and I'm like, no problem, I got this. What they failed to mention is that you will spend much of that 5 hours just kind of beating your head against a couple of the bosses in this game.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
It is a very hard Metroid game. That is kind of my takeaway from the time that I spent with this thing. I've not seen the credits roll. I'm not to the end yet, but man, it's just punishing. It is surprisingly punishing.
I remember being in EB Games around when this came out because I think I was buying a GameCube. And
good choice, good purchase.
Yeah. Metroid Prime and Fusion came out on the same day, which is kind of unbelievable.
Oh, wow.
And there were some guys in the store talking about them, and they were like, I got both these Metroid games. The little handheld one is harder than the big fancy GameCube one. I was like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah, well. That's
but not a pushover.
Yeah, and I mean, it does the Metroid things, the Metroidvania type things pretty well. In that, generally not quite sure where I'm going from moment to moment. I have to remind myself quite frequently, what's my objective? What am I looking for? And then, the save spots are pretty infrequently sort of distributed across the map. There are
so many save spots in this.
I disagree completely. Not enough to make me happy. Not enough to make me happy without doing a ton of backtracking to be able to access, in my opinion.
Okay. I feel like they're just like every 30 seconds is like, another save room or another like missile station. You can replenish all your ammo or whatever.
Yeah. No, maybe I missed something. I'm not sure. But that was not my experience with the early hours of this thing. But it kind of does all the Metroid things. I think if I have sort of one takeaway from the time I've spent with it, it's definitely a more linear Metroid experience where the game is pretty clearly sort of like, okay, go here and do this thing. I still find myself kind of meandering off the path and getting lost more often than not, but it is still much more, I think, guided than I generally associate Metroid games with being.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest surprise coming into this. Besides the fact that Samus can now just grab onto edges of a ledge, which I was like, oh man, that's so good. But the fact that not only is it much more linear, but it also just tells you where to go a lot of the time, where it'll pull up the map and just be like, go to this square. And like, oh, okay, that's different, but who am I to argue with this omnipotent computer? So let's do that. It's very different. Not necessarily bad. I mean, I still like this game a lot. It just has a very different sort of rhythm than all the previous Metroid games.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I enjoyed playing it. I think it's got, it was. I'm stumbling across what I want to say. It has sort of fairly high production values. It feels very well assembled and very well animated and pretty well written. I think this is one of the first games where you actually sort of get kind of Samus's kind of internal monologue, if I remember correctly, as she's sort of riding around the facility on these long elevator rides. You get these little snippets of her kind of thinking to herself, which I don't remember being in the games before. So that was kind of unusual and kind of a pleasant surprise.
There was a little bit of it in Super Metroid, but not nearly as much as there is in this. I mean, there's just so much dialogue in this because like every time you get to a save room, the computer has a whole spiel that spits out at you.
Yeah.
And you hear a lot more from Samus as well. But I think it's very effective. I think it like I said, very different style of Metroid game than the predecessors, but still very cool, very unique.
So I don't know how Fusion ends because I've not seen the ending. We won't spoil it here for anybody who's curious, but I am my objective was to sort of finish Fusion so that I was ready for Dread. And
then they just spoil the ending for Fusion in the first 30 seconds.
They do! So that was kind of the pleasant surprise, I guess. Playing Dread was like, oh, I didn't need to go through all that. It doesn't do like a previously on Metroid, but you get a little bit of Samus kind of like talking to herself, essentially, and kind of narrating a little bit of a recap of what happened previously in her adventures, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is, it's probably good because it has been 19 years since
a very
Fusion
long
came out?
time. Yeah, Fusion is not sort of easily accessible. I have it on my 3DS because I have an Ambassador 3DS, but otherwise you can't buy it in the eShop. And
is it not in the eShop at all?
I don't believe so. No, I don't think it's available for just anybody to buy on their 3DS.
Oh, I think it's on the Wii U eShop.
It is that. Yeah.
Okay, well...
which is, I think, an even smaller pool than the Ambassador Club.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you still have a functioning Wii U, you can play Metroid Fusion on it. But
ooh, that's rough.
Yeah. Surprisingly, not on the Switch.
Yeah, they really got to figure out some sort of like Game Boy Advance emulation solution for that. Like, they just put those Castlevania games on there. Those are great.
Yeah.
But Konami had to do their whole separate thing to get that to work. It'd be great if you could just buy them.
What's unique about the Advance that would make it harder to port?
I don't think anything. They just, they don't have, they've got the NES and Super NES collections on there already, so they've got whatever emulation, framework set up. They just need to do that for Game Boy.
Yeah. That's a bummer.
Yeah.
I can see sort of the challenge of the DS and the 3DS with the dual screens and trying to sort of port that over. The Wii U would have been perfect for such a thing, obviously, because it was a dual screen system, but making that sort of effective on a single screen would be tougher anyways. I'm not sure what the reluctance in getting these advanced games, Game Boy Advance games out is.
They actually had DS games on the Wii U eShop. They had a DS Virtual Console. Mm-hmm. And I think, so you could do it one screen's on the TV, one's on the gamepad. But they had a mode where you could turn the gamepad sideways, so you had this kind of tall screen, and just have both screens on the gamepad, which I thought was oh man, that looks silly, but it's, seems like it works.
It's super effective, yeah.
I could see them doing that on the Switch as well.
Oh, that's fun. I don't think I knew that. I will have to look into that a little bit. I have my Wii U still hooked up, so I'm trying to get some mileage out of it. That'd be impressive.
Yeah. Play some Animal Crossing Wild World.
I can't go back to those islands. That's terrifying.
Oh, man. So Metroid Fusion, it was super fun to go back to this. Like I said, it's been a while. I was very curious because, this is just something weird that got into my head about this game, is that at the beginning, Samus gets infected by this new parasite, the X parasite, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they make her they make a big deal about this, about how it's taken over. I believe they describe it as the organic components of her power suit, and they talk about how they're not able to remove like the suit because it's like fused with her central nervous system. So I was like, oh man, for a game that just does not really have just pages and pages of story and lore, this seems like a significant sort of character development, in that in Metroid Fusion, Samus is suddenly just some weird kind of cyborg who is now permanently fused with her power suit. Why is nobody talking about this? Why am I the only one freaking out about this? Like, that's weird, isn't it?
Well, weirder still is that the solution to sort of addressing the X parasite is to inject her with Metroid DNA.
Yeah, which is so cool. Which is just like, oh yeah, that's great. I love it.
Which is sort of the most sci-fi sort of solution to this problem ever. Is like,
right.
We're going to basically turn you into your enemy, the thing that you've been sort of hunting and trying to kill for the entire series. It's very Alien, and the whole Metroid thing is very Alien, anyways. Yeah. But yeah, it's good.
Sigourney Weaver, my top choice to play Samus Aran, by the way. Like Sigourney Weaver, like from like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was like, oh man, that's so good. This whole like she's part Metroid now. She can like absorb enemies' life forces. Great.
Yep. And she can use the X parasite when she sort of kills. Kind of the X parasite sort of replicates enemies. So when she kills them, the parasite is released, and she can then absorb that and turn it into energy. You can use it essentially as a power up. Yeah. So that's game changing as well.
It's really good, but it still leaves me with the question of like, okay, so. Like, what does she look like without the suit on?
Is
now?
it gross under there? Yeah.
Is like, does she look like anything? Can she even take the helmet off?
Yeah.
Why is she still like this like sexy stripper in Super Smash Brothers when she takes the suit off?
Is Smash canon? I don't think that's canon.
I mean, I don't know where the Smash fits in, but I've been seeing all this fan art of like Metroid Dread, and she's wearing the new suit with the helmet off, and she just looks like some teenager, and I'm like, what? And I totally forgot, and this is like a minor spoiler for this game that's 19 years old, that at the end of Metroid Fusion, she just absorbs some like super form of the X parasite that hits the reset button and everything. And
oh, like, really? Okay, didn't know that.
Like, that's a total cop-out.
I mean, it would be
totally
awesome
forgot about that.
If she pulled the mask off and it was melty, grody zombie Night of the Living Dead.
The guy from RoboCop with like her faces melting off.
Melting, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Or it's like a Metroid head inside, or it's like,
yeah, that would be
pretty
perfect. Yeah.
blonde lady with like the Metroid mandibles on or something. Or
Exactly. Just
bizarro
just a
fusion.
Metroid, like Mrs. Pac-Man, with like Metroid with a blonde wig on.
Right. Mrs. Metroid.
Yeah, so I don't know. I was just disappointed that, like so many games, they can never have any like permanent sort of impact on the series. They just have to, I mean, that's how every Metroid game works. He just gets reset at the beginning of every game anyway.
There is some, construct that strips you of all the powers and stuff like that you had in the previous one, and you basically spend all of your time sort of rebuilding your arsenal and taking on the big bad once again.
Yeah. But she didn't even keep the cool new suit, which was kind of disappointing. Oh, well.
This is sort of the classic thing in the Metroid when you die and they cut to, like, her, like, exploding out of the suit, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they do it in Dread, too. And, there's a part of me, knowing sort of what had happened in Fusion, was sort of like, again, is she going to be, like, zombie Samus in there? But no.
Right. Like, she's going to have 3 arms on there.
A bunch of tentacles come out or something like that. It'd be gross and weird and a cool kind of right turn for this series. But nope, she's just blonde lady inside.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Fusion, it was fun though. I kind of want to stick with it. I want to see the end thing happen here. They keep saying it's not that long, but just I don't have a lot of patience to beat my head against some of these bosses, man. And I know that there is just a crazy boss coming, so I'm.
Oh yeah, which one is that?
The SAX Samus. Your what Dark Link basically that you're trying to take take on at the end. So,
it's funny. I don't actually remember fighting that thing. I mean, I know you do, but the battle wasn't particularly memorable. The ones I remember are like the weird sort of like box robot, and then there's like a spooky boss later on.
The nightmare, yeah, that's the one yeah.
But no, I don't remember the like evil Samus being especially terrifying, other than when it's like chasing you around the station.
Yeah. Which is sort of an interesting kind of through line to Dread, in that there is the Emmys in Dread, the EMMI kind of robots that are malfunctioning and perceive Samus as a threat. And are indestructible. You can't kill them. So they basically, if you walk into an area where they're on patrol and they detect you, they will hunt you. and chase you until you can either successfully hide or pull off a 1 in 100 chance kind of parry and then continue to run away. But they cannot be killed.
Yeah. Okay. So switching to Metroid Dread, I guess.
Yeah.
I just want to say, so they found the X parasite on a new planet, and their first response is to just send 6 of these indestructible robots down to deal with it, which is like, we did that in the last game. That didn't work.
How's that working out for you guys?
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm not sure about this whole Galactic Federation business.
Are they appointed for life? Are they publicly elected? I want to know what the
I don't know. We don't know that.
The structure is. Maybe we need a Galactic Federation Force video. No, that'd be terrible.
Yeah, there we go. Federation Force Origins.
Right. Yeah. So how do you feel about the Emmy construct, this sort of indestructible pursuant enemy that is kind of all over the place in Dread?
I don't think I like them. And I think that, I mean, it's like when any big indestructible enemy is chasing you in a game, I generally don't like that. But I don't know if it's because it's just unpleasant when that happens. I mean, I don't know if anybody really enjoys it. You know what I mean? Because when you get to that point in the game, it's like, oh, you just have to run away from this thing. And it's terrifying. You should not enjoy that. But it's thankfully not throughout the entire game. It's just in these designated sections, so you kind of are able to mentally prepare yourself.
Which the game telegraphs pretty sort of effectively. They have very sort of specific kind of doorways to the areas where the Emmys are patrolling. And when you see one of those doors, you make the sort of the conscious choice to go through it and deal with that. They're not unavoidable. You can't skip those areas. You do have to kind of take them on because they connect you to other parts of the ship that you need to get to, the other parts of the planet that you need to get to. But it's not like they sort of magically show up by surprise. You know that they're in that area somewhere.
Right. And generally what I found is that you're not really, or there are not usually critical mission objectives in those areas either. So you really just are running away from this thing. Or, I mean, you're trying to evade this thing. Like, you're not necessarily always being chased by it either.
Right. I feel like I want there to be more tools, and maybe there are later in the game. I have not finished Metroid Dread by any stretch, but I wish there were more tools for being able to kind of hide from it or evade it, or maybe Samus had like a silent mode or could tiptoe or so. You see always sort of a dead sprint, making the most noise as possible,
running all the time.
Yeah.
And, I don't know how far you are into it, but you do get one tool to deal with them.
Cool. All right.
Which is, I think, is pretty good.
Good. But yeah, it's not like she can, and maybe I have too many horror video games in my brain, but like can't find a locker to hide in or, a dark corner to like back into or anything like that. She really is just trying to avoid and run away. So yeah, it just feels like the tool set for addressing them, and I don't mean sort of bigger, badder weapons. It's not like that having sort of huge battles with these things, which it probably is coming to some degree. But I don't know. I just there was something else in her moveset that allowed me to like be a more effective stealth participant.
Yeah. Oh, I think you're gonna get something fairly soon. I feel.
Okay.
Like,
cool. Good.
I think you'll be very happy with it.
Nice.
So I wouldn't worry about it for too long.
Well, ignore my complaints then.
It's one of those things where, like, for the start of some game, you feel, I don't know, very underpowered or incapable of doing specific things, but then they just give you exactly what you want. Okay, now I see, like, this feels like much more of a complete system. So yeah, I think it's very good.
Cool. But man, those first couple of encounters with the Emmys are one are really terrifying because it's like flashing red lights and alarms going off and very intense music. It reminds me a lot of the Guardian music from Breath of the Wild, in fact, where, you hear this sort of ominous alarm drone and if this thing spots me, I'm dead. You do have the ability to do a kind of parry at a very specific time that freezes the little robot, and you can kind of slide between its legs and run away. But the game is very sort of clear at saying this is very, very hard to do. I think that the odds it gives you is a 1 in 100 chance. And yeah, I've probably died by their hand about 100 times, and I've pulled off the parry move successfully once. So that makes sense.
Yeah. I think I did one parry, and it might have been... I feel like the first time it tells you about it, they might just give you a freebie.
Yes.
To see how it works.
Yeah. Against a sad, old, malfunctioning robot. Yeah.
yeah, you fight the, ruined one the first time. So it's like, okay, I feel kind of bad for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, I did the parry, and I was like, oh my god, I did it. Oh, I'm supposed to leave now. I'm not supposed to be celebrated. So I just
stand around and admire your work. Yeah, you gotta get out of there. Yeah.
So yeah,
I like the parry in the other encounters, and this is a carryover from the other Mercury Steam game, the Samus Returns from a couple of years ago on the 3DS, where some of the enemies, will have a little flash of light as they're about to attack you, and if you do a melee move at exactly that time, they'll stun them and you get a free shot, basically. So when you pull those off, you feel like a badass. I feel like those still, every time it happens, particularly the little flying ones, when they spot you and they zoom for you, you bat them away with your giant cannon arm and then take a shot at them. It feels awesome every time.
I am still so not a fan of this.
Oh, really?
I feel like it is... I mean, it's not as bad as it was in Samus Returns, because there are not a lot of enemies where you just have to stop dead in your tracks and wait a few seconds for them to wind up the animation that you want to parry.
Okay, I follow.
Because my issue in Samus Returns was that it was just so disruptive to me running around on the planet and trying to get to the next place, because you would just have to stop what you were doing in a lot of cases and wait
for them to notice you.
Yeah,
because
I think a few of those you couldn't even very easily go around them. They would just be in your way and taking up the entire corridor. And in Dread, thankfully, there's less of that. And in a lot of cases, actually, you can just shoot the enemies without having to wait for them to parry. Sometimes you have to bring out your missiles or whatever.
Right.
But so far, there are fewer enemies that you have to strictly use the parry to deal with, which is good.
You get more stuff. They drop more stuff if you get the parry kill, though.
Yeah, which is I also don't like, because it means if you kill them normally, you don't get anything.
You only get one stuff. You don't get 5 stuff.
You just got one stuff.
Yeah.
I want more than one stuff.
Well,
I wish it was
parry,
just...
DJ.
But I wish it wasn't a counter, right? I wish you could just run up to them and hit them. If you're just going to have a melee move, just let me use it. I don't want to have to wait around for them to, sometimes they'll do a little fake out, and you do the parry at the wrong time, and then they hit you with their attack normally. You're just oh, this is such a waste of time.
Yeah, the parry is otherwise not very useful, and that's disappointing because, it's nice to kind of have that in the moveset, in the arsenal, but it doesn't really do a whole hell of a lot with it if you're not in that kind of parry animation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I don't know. Usually in games, I really enjoy a system like that, where, it's more of a skill thing, where it's an option you have, rather than just defending. You can take a risk and do a parry instead, because I think typically it leaves you open.
Right.
But in this, it feels so specific. You're supposed to just use it against these limited number of attacks that enemies whip out once in a while. It's like I said, it's less of an issue than in Samus Returns, which I'm very happy about. But still, I feel like it needs a little more. It has a little ways to go before I really enjoy it using it.
All right. I think it's fun, but I don't necessarily find it nearly as sort of obtrusive, I think.
I just want to be running through corridors at full speed, shooting stuff with my gun. That's all I want to do in these games.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You kind of don't have. Well, you do have the option to do that, but you don't get the rewards basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're so adamant that Samus needs to just be smacking stuff with her gun all the time. Like, it's a gun. Why would you hit stuff with it?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Other than that, though, I'm having a really good time with it. I think it's actually, I'm enjoying it so much more than Samus Returns.
Yeah, and I'm trying to sort of figure out why I like it more than Samus Returns, because I bounced off that pretty hard.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't finish Samus Returns. I don't know how many hours I put into it. It's been a while. I have to go back and check my save, but that game left me very concerned. I was like, maybe I don't like Metroid games. Maybe because
we talked about this offline. I was like, which Metroid games have you played? And it was like only the Prime games, right?
Mostly Prime games. Yeah, I've played that whole trilogy. I've played Zero Mission. I've played some of Fusion now. Yeah, that might be it actually. And I played some of Samus Returns. Yeah. But and Samus Returns is a remake, correct, of something else?
It's a remake of Metroid 2 for the Game Boy, which, I have a hard time actually recommending those super early Metroids like Metroid 1 and 2, just because they're quite old and you need a map. But I mean, there's always Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo, which I feel like is pretty good.
Yeah. And that is on the Switch, if I remember correctly.
It is. It's on the little online thing.
I put that on the list as well, but yeah, Samus Returns has really left me kind of concerned that maybe I'm not a Metroid fan because I was not a fan of that game. But the more I think back on it, the more I think, it's not the best example of what you can do with Metroid. I think it is super bleak. You're underground all the time. There's not a lot of variety in kind of the places that you sort of run around and explore and stuff like that. I just think it was not the best sort of showcase for presenting a Metroid game to people who had not played a lot of them, or any of them for that matter, to gauge whether or not, we should make more of these.
I don't know if it was it's definitely not my favorite Metroid game. It was cool revisiting Metroid 2 because as I was saying, I don't know if I would necessarily go back and play Metroid 2 at this point. Mm-hmm. So it was a nice way of making that more accessible. But yeah, it just didn't end up being super memorable to me.
Yeah. Did you finish it?
I did. Huh. And there was the Mercury Steam did some questionable stuff at the end, which, I don't know. It kind of lowered my confidence in them in terms of whether how well they understood how to make a good Metroid game. But I feel like Metroid Dread is a huge improvement. It still remains to be seen just how much sort of gratuitous fan service they pack into it, but we'll see.
It is just at the most shallow level, super beautiful. I mean, it's a very good looking game.
Yeah, it looks good.
It runs super smooth. The environments are really well done. Character design is great. There is an encounter you have early in the game with another enemy that is just the coolest looking critter I've ever seen. I'm like, that is a really neat looking boss. So I think they have sort of packed the environments full of really interesting things to look at. I like that there's kind of animation and stuff happening in the background. It's not things that you sort of interact with, but as sort of Samus walks into an area, the door closes behind her. You see sort of in the background little critters, little woodland creatures and stuff like that skitter off into the distance or run into hiding and stuff like that. So it definitely feels a little more fleshed out, a little more sort of breadth to the world than there was just in kind of the deep, dark underground caves and stuff like that from Samus Returns. Yeah.
I keep having to remind myself this is a brand new sort of Metroid scenario where it's not just a remake like Samus Returns or Zero Mission.
Yeah.
So while I keep expecting to run into the same stuff, like when am I going to get the bombs and when am I going to get the wave beam and all that stuff?
Maybe you don't. Who knows?
Yeah, I know. I keep thinking I guess I'm going to get a bunch of new stuff too. And so far, there have been a few new abilities which are very surprising. They just sort of expand how you get around all the areas, which I think is very cool.
Cool.
Because one thing I'm kind of tired about when it comes to Metroid, and I think to some degree Zelda games as well, is that you just keep it's not that interesting if you just keep building up the same arsenal over and over again. It's kind of hilarious. I think at one point the computer in this just tells you like, oh man, this area is flooded. You're gonna need the space jump or the gravity suit to get through here. I'm just like, wait a minute. Okay, so I guess everything is just all predetermined. We're gonna get all these things at some point, and even the game knows about it. But at least they sprinkle in a couple of these.
He's been with you on previous missions, so he knows.
Yeah. But yeah, I like that there indeed is new stuff that you pick up along the way just to keep things fresh.
Good. Yeah, I've not found a ton of that yet, but it does what, good Metroidvania games do early on, is they sort of present to you places where you feel like, oh, that's a thing I could climb, maybe later. That's a thing I could shoot and blow up, maybe later. That's a little tunnel I could probably crouch through and get through later, but not now. Later, we'll come back to that. So, eventually you get these additional upgrades and these other little moves and stuff like that, and you have to work your way through your brain to remember where you saw all the little portals and stuff like that. I think it's cool in Dread that they've done a really good job, at least early, in sort of looping you back to those things after they start giving you some of the expanded moves, to be able to kind of apply them to places you may have missed on the way through or had to miss on the way through. I was really surprised after getting one of the pickups and walking through, walking in from the left, picking up the thing, and then walking out to the right and going, oh, I'm right back here where that door was that I needed before.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good level design. I'll take that. That's fine. It doesn't feel like a ton of backtracking, which, Metroidvania games sometimes sort of fall into the trap of.
Yeah. It's kind of been tricky balancing just how much backtracking I've been doing because a lot of cases, like you get a new power-up, and you immediately think, okay, well, now I've got to go back and find all the little, like, the missile doors that I couldn't open. But in this, it feels like if you don't do that immediately after getting one of those things, it really likes to, like, whisk you off to a new area and then kind of seal you in there until you get the new, like, the big power-up for that area. Or at least that's how it's felt to me so far. So you really have to be committed to doing the backtracking immediately. Otherwise, it might be a while before you can get back to that area.
Yeah. I would add that it does feel much more open and much less guided than my time with Fusion. I think... I continue to find myself sort of running in circles around sort of collections of rooms in Dread. Like, there's something I'm missing. There's something I haven't shot. There's some brick I haven't broken. There's some ability I don't have yet that I'm just, that is preventing me from being able to move forward in the way that I want. There is a tiny bit of frustration. I'm not the most patient person with that kind of thing. But the game, again, is pretty clear at saying, and I think you actually even tweeted the other day, just shoot everything and see what breaks. I have found that has been the secret a couple of times to being able to move on to the next thing.
Yeah, there are a few places where I thought I was actually stuck, like I had done something wrong and I wouldn't be able to progress. But yeah, it was just a case of like, this classic Metroid thing, the key progression route was in an unmarked block that you just had to like hope you would hit with a stray laser beam or something. So that was a little frustrating, but I forgot how much, like, playing Fusion again reminded me just how much of a thing that is in Metroid games, where there are quite a few dead ends in that game, and you're just like, well, what? Like, where can I possibly go now? And it's just, the entire floor is destroyable if you have this specific weapon. So, in a way, it was kind of, like, good, like, retraining that is something I have to be doing.
Right.
So, yeah, now I'm just, like, whenever I got stuck, I just shoot all my missiles at the walls or like start bombing everything, and eventually a passageway opens up. Yep.
Yeah. This is sort of my default early on in any Metroid game that I've played is like, there's a door that appears to be locked. Maybe I have to hit it. Maybe I have to shoot it with a missile. Maybe I need a charge shot. Maybe it's like, what series of weird combinations of things do I need to do to unlock this door? And then ultimately decide, okay, it's not something I have a key for yet. We'll have to come back to that later. But yeah, there's definitely a bit of a roulette to going through Samus's moves, trying to figure out, is this the thing that I need to be able to move forward?
Yeah. I like the times when you will like uncover a destructible block and it clearly has like either the bomb icon or like the speed boost icon. You go, okay, I know what that is. But then
it gives you the little logo for the thing you need to move forward there. Yeah,
exactly. But I like the times in Dread where you come up against one of those and you're just like, I don't know what that is. That is a completely new thing.
Yes.
And just the anticipation that comes in with that of getting some wild new power-up or ability is very cool.
Yep. Yeah, and again, there is sort of that traditional kind of classic Castlevania, Metroidvania thing too, where you'll see, under the floor the icon for an energy tank or a missile pickup or some other thing that you can't even recognize, and you have to sort of figure out what the pathway back to that room under you is. So it again, sort of just very sort of clever kind of classic Metroidvania level design, where it's sort of teasing inaccessible things just out of reach and making you kind of work that map and work all of your climbing and jumping skills to be able to get to that sort of little secret corner to find that door.
Yeah.
To get that thing. Yeah. But it's cool. It's again very exciting to see a Metroidvania game, a Metroid game in name entirely. Come out in 2021 on a Nintendo console and have all of the kind of modern kind of polish you would expect from a very expensive video game.
Yeah, it's like the first home console 2D Metroid in probably like 25 years since Super Metroid.
Yeah, that's true.
It's kind of crazy.
But I'm digging it. It feels brisk. It doesn't feel unnecessarily punishing unless you encounter one of those Emmys and make too much noise.
Yeah. I'm relieved that those are not like a huge roadblock. Like generally they've been pretty easy to deal with.
Yeah. They're ominous though. There's a scene early on where it sort of uses cutscenes, little like warm up cutscenes for some of the monsters and for Emmys specifically. Sparsely, but they're there. And there's one where you sort of walk into one of those Emmy areas through one of those doors I mentioned earlier, and that robot is there somewhere. And it kind of cuts to them, I don't know where they hide. They're in their little closet or something like that, with its little scanny eyeball kind of rolling around and scanning the environment. And you kind of walk forward a little bit and then cut to the little scanny robot kind of like warming up and turning red. And you're like, oh, it's building some tension here. Not a ton of that, so it doesn't really kind of get in the way and get annoying, but it definitely sort of builds them up as an intimidating presence in the game, which I kind of dig.
Yeah. I'm grateful that they don't just like chase you around the entire map like the Nemesis in Resident Evil. So you do get a reprieve pretty frequently.
Yeah. They're really good at locking those doors behind you when those things fire up.
Yeah, that's a bummer. A lot of the time I'm just like, dude, I was right there. Like the door's right there, and then you have to do this weird U-turn maneuver around them, and go hide somewhere for a few minutes. For the most part, though, they're fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
No
it's certainly
issues with them.
Again, I'm not the most patient when it comes to sort of structures like that in video games, and I'm dealing with it just fine, so it's good. And the game is really good about sort of getting you back to it pretty quickly, too, because the enemy encounters are almost assuredly an instant kill.
Yeah.
A pretty sort of violent kill. I'm not like gory, blood dripping down the walls, but they come for you hard.
Stabs you with a big spike.
Yeah. Again, there's a RoboCop reference there too, I think. But it's pretty aggressive, and you almost assuredly die every single time. But the load screen situation is not too obtrusive. You get back to it pretty quickly.
Yeah. I like how little fanfare there is around whenever the Emmy actually catches up to you and kills you, because it gives you the window to do the counter. But then if you miss it, it's just like it just does this little stab. It's like
shunk,
and then it's like game over. Like, oh wow, it's not like The Last of Us or anything where it shows the Emmy ripping Samus's jaw open or whatever. It's just just 2 seconds, fade to black.
So that weird choice they made with all the new Tomb Raider games where every time Lara Croft dies, it's just
every death is like a 30-minute cutscene. It's just like
bone crunching every
detail.
time. Yeah, exactly. They move beyond it pretty quickly.
Yeah. It's a Nintendo game. It has to be family friendly.
Exactly. Yeah. There's babies playing this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I dig it. I mean, if you can't tell. From my sort of enthusiasm thus far, my concerns I had about not liking Metroid games were not entirely well founded. I find that as I'm getting into this, I'm super getting into it and want to continue going back to it. So yeah, it's been a fun weekend, kind of exploring it.
Yeah, looking forward to hearing what you think of some of the bosses later on.
Yeah, that's certainly something I've not spent a lot of time kind of dealing with, and boss battles in video games are generally a breaking point for me. So we'll see how that goes, but again, excited to explore some more.
Yeah. I don't think where I would put it in comparison to Metroid Fusion, in terms of like just the level of boss difficulty. Not totally sure at this point.
Sort of a general difficulty, just sort of, in terms of running around and kind of doing your thing. Not Dread, anyways, is not the most intimidating. It definitely is manageable.
No, yeah. Running around is fine, unless you accidentally wander into one of those lava rooms, and you're like,
the cold rooms are the ones that get me now, as I sort of walk in, and again, you get a warning early in the game that's sort of like, your suit is not built for Arctic temperatures, watch out for cold areas, and then inevitably the door will open, cold steam, cold air will come rolling out of the door, and like a dummy I'll go walking in, and it's just bright red alarms, and my health meter just drops super rapidly. Like, oh, that was dumb, back out the door.
Yeah, so I realized that it actually starts dropping faster the longer you spend in there, because there are a few of those where I was like, I could, there's a power-up right there. I'll just go in and get it and turn around.
You and I did exactly the same thing.
It's like, oh, this is a real bad idea. So stop doing that. I wised up to that pretty quickly.
Cool. Any other thoughts on Dread before we move on to Battlefield?
I don't know. I didn't take any notes on it. Turned out I only have notes on Metroid Fusion. But so far I've been pleasantly surprised. I was really just bracing myself after Samus Returns to just be like, how many times is it going to make me do the melee counter? And it's been a pleasant surprise. So good. Yeah, it's been very good so far.
Excellent. So what can you tell us about this beta for Battlefield 2042?
So Battlefield, there's a new Battlefield coming out. I'm kind of excited about this one because it is back in semi-modern times. It's not like present day. It's a little weird actually, because it's not exactly present day. It's not like far future either.
Does it take place in 2042?
20 years from now. It's weird. Yeah, 2042. We're fighting the Russians. The Americans are fighting the Russians.
Freaking Russians.
Don't know what's up with that. I was actually worried I was not even going to be able to play this because I still haven't been able to get my hands on one of those those graphic cards from like last year because you just can't buy them. But to my surprise, it actually runs really well on my system, which is
nice.
Was fairly old at this point. So I thought, oh wow, I feel like I could actually play this. Could be good. And I'm a huge Battlefield fan, so I thought maybe this is the the sweet spot. You got sort of the modern technology. It actually runs pretty well. The community seems really excited about it. So I wanted to give this beta a try. And for the most part, it feels like Battlefield, so that's good.
Battlefield has had some weird detours over the last decade or so. I feel like I don't have a ton of history with this series, but they have been, it seems, a little more experimental. There was the whole kind of cops and robbers one that they did, right? That was like the LAPD.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hardwired or something like that.
Hardline.
Hardline, there you go.
Played that one.
Yeah, and there was the whole sort of Bad Company kind of side story thing, which was a little more goofy and a little sort of less kind of grim wartime simulator.
Yeah. It feels like, it's interesting in that it feels like it has a lot of those classic Battlefield, very like team play oriented elements, but it also feels like it is a reaction to stuff like PUBG and Battle Royale and that sort of thing. Because like the maps are enormous now. They've always been pretty large in Battlefield, but like the team size, I think it used to top off at like 64 players on a team, and now it's 128. So that is like even larger than PUBG. I don't know
That's
how large
crazy.
the Call of Duty maps get, like the Warzone maps, but yeah, it's huge. I don't even know if there were a full 128 players on the games that I played. I believe that for the sake of team balance, it starts populating in empty slots with bots, which has been kind of controversial.
Oh.
I actually wasn't aware of this when I was playing, so I don't know if any of the enemy soldiers I ran into were actually AI. But I don't know. Could have fooled me, so I guess that's fine. The maps, yeah, I mean they're just enormous maps. They're like, think of the largest Battlefield maps that you've played, and that was like the one map from this beta. It was huge. I kind of like it because that's always been a very like core Battlefield thing to me, is that it feels like you've got this enormous sort of area of operations, and then within it there are a bunch of little sort of control points where you have these smaller encounters happening, which is like pretty interesting.
And the hook with a lot of the Battlefield games is you need that scale because there's so many other ways of kind of running on the map. You're not just on foot all the time. They're hopping in a tank or jumping into a jet and flying someplace. So you need, these things to be kind of expansive to be able to make all of that worth it, right?
Yeah, that's true. You need a lot of space for all those like helicopters and jets. I think they're like high-speed jets in this one again.
Cool.
Which is also kind of a double-edged sword, because potentially in those older Battlefield games, if you just respawned at the base and somebody ran off with the last vehicle, it kind of left you just standing there thinking like, oh, is it worthwhile for me to just run to the next control point? And
I guess we're walking. Yeah.
5 minutes later, see if they still need my help there, or do I just wait for another vehicle to respawn?
You pull out your phone and you get one of those little electric scooters, and you just kind of
yeah, right. You just get a Lime scooter or whatever.
Right, there you go. Put
but
your way over to the next thing. Yeah.
You can just summon in a vehicle on the fly, and I don't know. It seems like there are extra vehicle slots allotted beyond just like what spawns at the base. But a few times I would spawn somewhere and there'd be no vehicle, and I'd just pop out my little like PDA or whatever it is, like the Battlefield 2042 equivalent, and go like, I would like this like Jeep or Humvee or whatever, and you just mark a drop zone, and a few seconds later there's a car parachutes out of the sky for you. Like,
yeah, fun.
That's nice.
Yeah,
that's good.
That's what you want.
So yeah, they've done a little bit to sort of mitigate that frustration of just being forced to walk across half the map again.
Can you time it strategically so that they drop the Jeep on an enemy?
Oh, I'm sure you can do that. Yeah,
okay,
I wasn't. I wasn't at that point in my 2042 career. No. But yeah, I'm sure there will be YouTube montages of just the best enemy squashes of trucks falling on people at critical points.
Do you remember that game, Starhawk? Was it Starhawk where you could do that? Yeah. Where you were calling in drops all the time, and basically
just
everything
like drop whole buildings on people.
Yeah, exactly. So you just time it just right as the enemies are running towards you. You call in a drop and splat the whole team.
Yeah. In that game, I feel like you really like everybody has to be wise to that from the outset, where they just know that is something. I think pretty sure the developer was encouraging people to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was like, oh man, I'm not running in there. They've got a building queued up, and they're just gonna put it on my head as I try and get the flag. But that's nice. That's a cool thing you can do.
Yeah, it's fun.
One of the things I've noticed just about playing this in like beta situations, and my little time spent with Battlefield 5 was just kind of as a lone wolf. I've just joined whatever squads it would put me into. Is that it feels like people just don't really like focus on the team play as much. And I think part of that is just because, I like in the old days, I would have my own squad of just like my buddies we would team up with.
Yeah.
And we would be very coordinated and everything. But nowadays, I feel like a lot of people will just drop into a game so they can get a few rounds of Battlefield in or whatever. And they're not as concerned about like giving orders or choosing classes that complement each other. Which is, disappointing, but I feel like that is just an inevitable direction that this type of game is going in. But a couple of interesting changes they've made this time, which again I think are controversial, is that there are not really classes anymore. like Battlefield always had sort of like archetypal, like you'd have an assault class or a medic and support and all that stuff. And you still kind of have that. Like in the selection screen, you can choose like an assault loadout or a medic loadout and all this sort of stuff. But then you can just immediately go in and swap out all the different equipment in each set. And that includes your primary weapon. So if you're like an assault class, you don't have to be forced to use an assault rifle. You could have a shotgun or a light machine gun or whatever you want. You could be a medic running around with a sniper rifle if you think that would be helpful to your team. Which at first I thought, I was like, oh, I don't like that they're doing away with classes, because that's something I've always really liked about Battlefield. But I do like the fact that you basically just roll your own custom class now. So you can choose what's sort of most effective for you or whatever the given situation sort of requires.
By pulling elements from all of those different classes.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
You can also customize your gun pretty much on the fly. Like, I don't know if you can do this in combat, but anytime you have a free second, you can just pull up a sub-menu and put like a different scope on your gun or swap out like a grip or even an underbarrel attachment, which I thought was very interesting. Because that was something that I thought was very cool about Battlefield 3, is that there was just so much customization you could do to your guns, but it was only between like lives. As you were respawning, you could go in and make all these edits.
Oh, gotcha.
But in this one, like say you just captured a control point, and you're like, oh, all right, I don't need this like close range attachment anymore. You can just put a big scope on your rifle, and suddenly you have like this long range tool as you make your way to the next control point. And then when you get there, just swap it for something else, which I thought was very interesting. One of my favorites was if you have a light machine gun, you can just put in anti-material rounds, which are very effective against vehicles and like heavy armor. So I'm like, well, that's very different, because typically your only response to vehicles is to pull out some C4 or like a rocket launcher if you're that specific class. But now you have kind of an option with this support gun, which I thought was very cool.
Cool.
As a replacement for like the uniqueness of each class, they have this like specialist system, which I think was in Battlefield 5. It's been in like what's the game? Like Apex Legends, and one of I forget which Call of Duty had it. Probably many of them have had it at this point. But rather than picking a class, you pick one of these like specialists, which is essentially just a unique character that has a couple of their own unique abilities that range from, like, I spent a lot of time playing as this support focused class. So she had like a healing pistol. Another guy had a little drone turret that he could set up. But I think the community favorite so far is this guy who has a grappling hook, so you can just grapple onto high surfaces and kind of cross gaps that way. It seems kind of cool.
Nice. I'm a firm believer that all video games should have a grappling hook.
Oh, yeah. It's like one of the, I think it was like even on the Washington Post, which I thought was weird. They had an article that was like, is Battlefield 2042's grappling hook too good? I'm like, wow, that seems like a very specific article for the Washington Post. I don't know who they're letting
the Washington Post,
for that publication.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, they only had a very small selection of specialists in the beta, so I didn't really get to check out the full range of gadgets. But Battlefield's generally been pretty good about having interesting gadgets. In fact, that's something I like about the near future setting, is I think it opens up the sort of range of just weird toys you can play with a little more, as opposed to like when they had it in World War I and II a couple installments ago.
Yeah, you're pretty limited by that era, right?
Yeah, I mean they can certainly get creative, but it feels like, you know, they still have their limitations. They wouldn't have any like robots you could call in.
You're not getting a drone in World War II.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, speaking of robots you can call in, though, as I was trying to call in the car to get me to the next control point, the first thing on the sort of like, I don't know what you call it, the drop menu was this little like robot dog thing which it's basically one of those, the Boston Dynamics just terrifying robot dogs.
Yeah.
Which they're like, look how many times we can kick it and it doesn't fall over. And
now watch it dancing to Lizzo. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it definitely doesn't. It's definitely not going to remember that we spend its entire existence just kicking it and making fun of it on the internet when we put all those advanced AIs in.
Right.
But so basically you could just call in one of those. And I was like, oh, this is okay. So here's where all the near future tech comes in. What is this thing going to do? Can I like ride this to the next control point? Is that the idea? So I was getting very excited about that. And I was waiting for this, the dog to drop down from the parachute. And it like pops up and I go, oh, well, I can't ride on it, I guess. So now what? So it just kind of follows me awkwardly to the next control point. And of course, I just immediately get murdered by somebody who was waiting there for, they were camping out for me. And I'm just like, oh man, the dog's still alive though. What is it going to do? And I just, I'm watching my soldier bleed out on the ground and the dog is just walking in circles around me, just questioning the decisions I've made. It's like, oh, great. But clearly there was something I was supposed to do with this dog that is not, that I failed to do. And now the dog is just being a complete waste of space.
Now he's just homeless.
Yeah, just another homeless dog on the battlefield.
Oh.
So, I don't know. There's got to be more to that dog that somebody's got to know how to make the most of it. I think the next time I saw it, and who knows, it could have been a completely different dog. They all look very similar. I was following my squad to another control point, and I just saw off to the side there was a dog running alongside them. I was like, oh my god, it's the dog from before. What are you doing, boy? And it's just at that exact moment, it stopped in the middle of the field to just start shooting, start taking pot shots, basically, at this extremely distant hill, which did not appear to have anybody on it. So I was just like, oh, all right. Huh. You're not the smartest piece of battlefield equipment.
Sounds like a dog. Yeah, it sounds like my dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It gets angry about the doorbell on the TV.
Right. Yep. So I don't know. Maybe that's just, it has very realistic dog AI.
Exactly. It's just, even in the future, dog's not smart.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like fun. It sounds like you had a good time with this.
Yeah, it was a very Battlefield-like experience. Just, very chaotic. The atmosphere is still just extremely good. Really feels like you're just in the middle of this huge war taking place. And then occasionally you just see something weird happen, like a robot dog walks by, or somebody gets run over by a tank. Ooh, I did spend one round in a tank for half of it, and got a lot of kills that way. That was very exciting, because
nice.
In these betas, I'm usually kind of apprehensive to jump into the kind of very valuable vehicles. But I was like, oh, a tank, I think I know my way around. So that was very good.
Yeah, I got my limited experience with Battlefield games. I never wanted to drive them. I think sort of piloting and driving is very intimidating, and I'm always content to be a passenger. I'll ride shotgun if you need me to, but I don't want to be the one behind the wheel.
Yeah. A lot of good sort of gunner seats in the vehicles this time around, it seemed like.
Cool.
So
that's fun.
Good opportunity for you.
Cool. This is just a few weeks away, right? This comes out in November, right?
Yeah, in fact, so it actually got pushed back a month.
Oh.
I was really, especially after playing this beta, I was like, oh man, I could see myself playing this. And my plan was to just play this until the Final Fantasy expansion comes out in November, but it got delayed. And now it comes out the same day as the expansion, so I'm just oh
man.
Okay, so I guess I will just never play this game. Or, get into it when they're on Season 2 or whatever. I don't know what the sort of content plan for this is. But, man, that was a huge bummer, because the beta was actually a lot of fun.
You can't play it late, because then everybody's better than you.
I mean, I can, but I was going to play it this month. I'm not really concerned about, people will just have made more progress, because I feel like there will always be a steady influx of new players to balance it out. But, man, I was like, this is the perfect window to play this Battlefield game, and then they just pushed it back, which hopefully is for the good of, the game and, the developers working on it. So I'm not upset about it. I'm just like, oh, pretty inconvenient timing.
Yeah, that's a big day. There's something else that day as well, right? I think we
those Pokemon remakes, which I'm also very excited about, and I'm also not going to play. So, just poor scheduling.
That is a lot. November 19th. Oh, it looks like November. Yeah. Jeez. Well, good luck.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah, that's what I need.
Just play Animal Crossing.
Yeah. Oh.
That's also coming in. Well, the expansion is coming November 2. So I don't know if it's the 19th, but
who knows? I mean, I don't know if they would launch it the same day as those Pokemon games, but
that'd be dumb. Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe there's just something special about that day. People can't resist releasing their new games there.
Giving some people something to do on Black Friday.
Yeah.
That isn't going shopping.
Yeah, stay inside, please.
Cool. Well, this sounds like fun. Like I said, I've pretty casually approached these Battlefield games, but I've had fun playing them with friends in the past, playing them with you, in fact, in the past. And squatting up. So, again, it doesn't sound like a thing that I would jump into on the opening day. I certainly don't have a machine that'll run it on the PC. But
the PC version actually has cross-play with PS5 and the new Xbox.
I have one of those.
Yeah.
Cool.
God knows you'd need games for it.
It's true. Yes, exactly. To blow the dust off it every now and then. But yeah, cool. That's exciting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me know.
It does seem like something, I mean, that would just be fun to jump into, like get a few rounds in every once in a while. So, I don't know. Maybe if I need a break from Endwalker, we'll see.
Cool. All right. Well, what's a good week? That's a lot of good games.
Yeah.
Let's wrap this thing up so we can go play those games. If you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should definitely follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. And you can always get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about this episode and learn more about our plans for Extra Life coming up in early November at VGHangover.com. We would love for you to join us on Discord, hang out with us, talk about video games and other stuff. You get a link to that at VGHangover.com as well. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere else you can get a podcast. And tell your friends about the show, please.
Please do that. It really helps us get the word out.
Yeah.
That is actually the main way we rope in new listeners. So really appreciate it if you're able to give a recommendation or two.
Absolutely.
We also want to give special thanks to Hal Binderman this week for our intro and outro music. Head on over to heavyviper.bandcamp.com. Maybe buy an album or two.
All right, we'll be back next week. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya.